So it turns out the majority of Christians really do believe the internet is for porn. It's all about the best thing since Playboy to hit the shelves, and the same thing as the colour of mayonnaise to hit the bed sheets, shall we say. The church has decided that porn is nothing but porn, 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 as we go around and we remember that the internet is actually for porn. So they decided to upset the church by regarding the porn on the internet as, well, just that. This is one of the strangest articles I think I've read, because it's one of the first surveys to actually acknowledge that, well, people like me and AJ actually quite enjoy porn. Women, 40% of all church-going women admit to enjoying porn, and over 70% of men are doing exactly the same. So why is the church so upset? Because it seems that the porn is the kryptonite to the church and is keeping them as isolated as you can. And the church seems to think this is some kind of a problem. However, Faithwire by Trey Goins Phillips on the 24th of October 2024 explained that this probably isn't what you think it is.
I find this article amusing, more for the language used than the actual substance of the story. They use terms like the struggle of Christians with their porn habit. And is this a characterization?
Is that a pornography watching nun with a porn habit?
Yeah. But, I mean, it's a
Put
problem.
The porn habit on.
It's a problem, well, how else is she going to, get entertainment given who she's married to? Anyway, the struggle of Christians with their porn habit is as if there's a struggle with porn. Anyway, it just doesn't make much sense. It's the characterization of it. And like you were saying, why is it an issue at all? 75% of Christian men and 40% of Christian women view porn, at least occasionally. Too funny. Couched in terms of who is helping you with your struggle with porn. And they say, no one. I view porn. Big deal. I would say, what struggle? And then the old trope of being alone is where the enemy is. So if you're alone watching porn, that's where the enemy is, and nobody's watching out for you. What a load, man. That's just awful.
Oh, blow off some steam, will you?
As soon as I started reading the article, I could tell that it was so biased. And it was by Faithwire, so, it's a Christian website. And you can tell that the writer was religion, and that the study release is actually just a survey done by a company called Barna Group. And this is an organization that tracks the role of faith in America. They partnered with another organization, and they interview and research, if you can even call it that, with a focus on Protestant Christian denominations and Catholic churches. So it's you can't take it seriously.
This article must be satire. Pure Desire Ministries. You can't be serious. You can't be serious. Pure Desire Ministries. I mean, really?
I had to look them up because I was like, that cannot be a real thing. But yeah, it's like actually a recovery group, and on their website they claim that lives and relationships are being destroyed by the effects of unwanted sexual behavior and betrayal trauma, and they help people.
There's no such thing as sex addiction. There's no such thing as porn addiction. It doesn't exist. All these sex therapists that are going to come after me, please come after me. Being somebody who enjoys sex, being a sex-positive individual, and somebody who is not ashamed to say, I watch pornography, and my wife goes, that's great, honey. And I go to my wife, whatever pornography you decide to indulge in, that's great too. Because guess what? We have a healthy relationship with each other. It's not going to drive a wedge between my wife and I. Pornography is not something that is designed to get in the way of your relationship. We don't have less sex because we both watch pornography or we both indulge or engage in pornography. Guess what? We still have lots of sex. We still enjoy each other's company. And if sex is falling out of the window because you have decided that pornography is taking over, maybe you have a bigger problem that you may not find your spouse or partner attractive anymore. It's like the man who sued Pfizer because he couldn't get a hard-on around his wife after he took Viagra. Sorry, mate. That ain't Pfizer's fault that your wife is no longer somebody you lust after.
The struggle with porn, they stated that they were not free from, I'm saying free from what? Inhibitions, sexual repression.
What, free as in without charge, or free as in liberty, as in freedom kind of free?
It's ironic. It is so ironic. It's amusing. I may be just a very strange person, but I laughed through a lot of this. The idea that porn is demonic. Porn is demonic. Then why are they having so much fun?
Demonic porn. You get dressed up, you put a couple of horns on, and then you're horny.
Now I'm not going to kink shame. I'm not going to kink shame anybody for that. But but if the porn is demonic, but so many people use it, I can see a way we can destroy all religion, and that is just produce more porn, right? So, just an idea, just a thought. It's hard for pastors to deal with it because they use it themselves. And so that is truly telling. And so they can't pick on their congregation if the congregation knows that they're being that hypocritical. So.
No, but you're not alone. You're not alone in that sentiment of laughing because, I have to laugh a little at the whole idea of biblical sexual ethic because the Bible is pretty much an ancient sex manual, right? It's like
a disturbing one at that. Yeah.
There are just so many
Sutra,
passages.
Eat your heart out. Bible to replace Kama Sutra in not the Onion.
Right. I mean, you see so many different passages about how and with whom you're allowed to have sex with in the Bible itself. And, this whole anti-pornography idea likely comes from some of the verses that say that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in their heart.
What a load of nonsense.
Right?
What an absolute load of nonsense. See, here's a question for the pair of you. What is the definition of pornography? What is it?
To me, I don't think it's like the hardcore porn that people think of. Like pornography can be just like soft porn, like sexy pictures, or it can be anything.
Showing too much ankle. Are we showing too much ankle now? Are we showing too much ankle?
You can see my wrist.
They might even show your petticoats. If you lift those up a little bit. Shocker.
We're getting the steams.
But yes, so
pornography is anything that can be is sexually stimulating to either watch or view. I guess would be and is made with the intent of doing so. But I don't know what the dictionary definition is, but that seems to be. I don't know. Hugh Hefner might have his own definition.
Well, Hugh Hefner is 6 foot under now.
Yeah.
He's 6 foot under a lot of things, but he's 6 foot under.
I was going to say he's been 6 foot under other things too. But
I don't think that sex and pornography are the enemy here. I mean, they're not the cause of the harm. It's the purity culture mentality that is causing harm to people. Like it's a toxic idea that you must stay pure according to God's rules and be saved, and that your body is not your own anymore. It's the property of God. Like your body is His body, and this brings shame and guilt. People just feel that way, and it makes them hide their behavior more. It makes them feel that no matter what they do, unless it's like vanilla missionary position sex, and with a person of the opposite sex,
the thing is that I don't understand why they're fighting this battle, because they'll lose this battle because they are fighting the nature of sexually dimorphic beings. That's a nod to our non-human listeners.
Sexually, there has to be some form of sexual reproduction, and I don't mean that in like just fornication. You have to have sexual reproduction. Humans do not reproduce asexually. It's just not the thing.
Well, now I was saying that as a nod to our non-human listeners, So anyway,
I would say that some of the most interesting are lovers, giant Floridian East Eastern Atlantic lovers. They are really quite good when they go on it. They have been known to engage in homosexuality and in multiple sex acts at the same time. So you will actually see like 3 or 4 of the lovers stacked on top of each other, as you know.
Stacked sex. Ooh.
I mean, this is
sounds
what we're
interesting,
talking about
actually.
Here. So,
but why all the obsession with sex in religion? Every adult and most teens have sex, except maybe the ace folks, and some of them do too. So just not as often. But it's just ridiculous because it's such an integral part of your personality and your life. It's not the whole part, but it is a part of you. So why are you trying to bottle it up and store it in the back cabinet and put a lock on it? That just makes it go bad, So it's like, why would you want it to rot inside you?
Yes. So I'm a woman. And I was quite fascinated by this article actually accepting that, women consume pornography. What was your take on that, AJ?
Yeah, that is, I thought that it was interesting because the article said that 40%, as you mentioned, 40% of Christian women admitted to using porn to some degree. And the men's percentage was much higher at 75%, which is actually about the same percentage of non-Christian women that use porn. So outside of Christianity, where in Christianity is 40%, outside of Christianity, 75%, a lot of women use porn, So I found that pretty interesting. It's something that secular, non-religious people find quite common, quite normal. Personally for myself, it took me quite a few years from the point where I call myself an atheist to the point where I realized that I had adopted so many Christian viewpoints, including a lot of the purity culture ideals. And it took time for me to realize that people shouldn't be ashamed of sex in general. And this includes using pornography to help with the sex life. And like I said earlier, you've got to keep in mind that porn doesn't always mean the extreme hardcore porn. It can be any type of sexual material like soft porn, sexy pictures of their own partners, with consent, of course.
We get JSMR being pornography if not careful here.
Yeah, well, I think these pastors need to go to a munch or to get invited to a sex party, enjoy themselves, and find out what all the fuss is about, or just back off and leave your parishioners to their own devices. There are some really cool devices on the internet anyway, but, I just don't see what the problem is. This is a natural function, and all the rest of it is a natural function. Just keep all that crap to yourself. Don't bother other people with it. And have some fun. Play with some people. Damn.
Yeah, it is. But religion has made sex such an awful thing. Like in Catholic faith, for example, self-pleasure and porn are believed to defile the sanctity of marriage because marriage is meant to be between a man and a woman. That's what the Bible says. Well, I guess a man, a woman, and God.
So
he's the third man out. Now, you see, now we're getting into some interesting stuff. If there's 3 of them, it's a 3-by, huh? So anyway.
So here's a question that raises an interesting thing. So what if a married couple make pornography and during that making of the pornography, conception occurs? Is that acceptable?
No, it's not, because I think they believe, as I said, that the body belongs to Jesus, to God. So basically, the only motive for having sex is for reproduction, I guess, because God always tells them in the Bible to multiply and multiply. So
go forth and multiply, spread your seed. Inside only. Spread your seed outside is no.
Yeah, but that whole idea, that whole idea of the body belonging to God is just extremely hurtful to me because it takes away your body autonomy. I imagine that this is why so many priests and church leaders have such a big issue with, this sexual behavior. It's like they are the ones committing all these horrible sexual crimes against children even. It's just absolutely despicable.
And the attempt to demonize having fun with fantasy really does cause damage to people. What we really need is less religious oppression of
more aphrodisiacs for everybody. Aphrodisiacs for all.
Sex education and acceptance of sex is natural to all species that use it. Just we have to educate people so that they know that it's okay, that what you're feeling and doing is not bad. It's not, okay, it might not be necessarily to do anything with, but it sure is fun. And why deny yourself fun? Sex is more than just reproduction. It's another, but actually that's another day's topic, I guess. So
yeah, but
I miss secular sexuality. I really miss secular sexuality.
Yeah, it was a great show.
Go back into the archives, you can just watch me on secular sexuality a lot.
That's good. Yeah, no, I completely agree with you that openly discussing sexuality, especially with young adults, with, like teenagers, like we are not saying that they have to go and have sex. You just have to have those discussions with them.
They're going to do that
in
anyway,
order to prepare them for when they're ready to, right? Like, and teach them that it's.
I'm going to say some things here. Sex will happen whether you talk about it or not. Pornography will be consumed whether you ban it or not. Pornography will be produced whether it's forbidden or verboten or not. And sex and pornography will be used in exactly the same amount, regardless of whether you legalize it, deregulate it, demonize it, or whatever. Because guess what? People were making pornography in Edwardian England, people were making pornography in Tudor England, and people were making pornography in medieval England. So pornography's been around for a while.
And the Greeks were making it a long time ago. Yeah. So
the other thing that comes with it is that you then get this purity culture of nonsense of where nudity itself becomes some kind of a no-no, where you have seen throughout history of, women being required to cover up and all this, that, and the other, and protests happening in Iran where a woman who was complaining about sexual harassment took all her clothes off and was arrested as a result. That's because, I don't know, what it is skin. We've all got a bit of skin. What does it really matter how much or how little skin you're showing off? Yes, I can understand for hygiene reasons you may not want to, see where someone's, waste material comes out. I can understand that. But here's the real question. Who decided that from here to here and my shoulders being covered or uncovered was acceptable or not? Who said that this part of my arm had to be covered or uncovered? Who makes these rules? Who comes up with this nonsense and decides to enforce it all? Because I want to show
it wasn't fashion designers. It wasn't the fashion designers, I can tell you that.
Yves Saint Laurent and, Jean-Paul Gaultier and alike,
they were all about more skin, actually.
Yeah. Gianni Versace was definitely about more skin, he was.
It does make me wonder now, like, where did that modesty ideal came from? Because modesty in the Bible is not really described. It doesn't really say, hey, you can't show this part or this part or this part. It's just, it just says modesty. So, like, who came up with it?
Nobody really knows.
Some guy in the patriarchy who thought that it was, better to control what women wore. You ever notice that it never was a real question about men except for one small area, but with women, it went all the way down to the ankles at one point.
Oh, yes.
Lace collars from here down to the ankles, and then you have burqas too in another part of the world. But a full body covering for women, and men are running around with their shirts off.
Well, yes. As the protesters in New York said, if you don't consider me to be a woman, and it is fine for a man to wander around with no top on, please take a look at my breasts.
But you know what it comes down to? It all goes back to this purity mentality, okay? And it goes back to putting women as the responsible ones for not tempting men. So I think they just want women to cover up so that the men are not tempted. So it's like,
So if you would like more responsible discussions on sex and sexuality and secular sexuality, then please click here.